Are you on the right course? Like you created a plan, but are you executing it with fidelity or integrity? Are you staying the course strong? Today, we're going to talk in this mindset episode about the damage that can be caused just by barely veering off the plan that we had initially begun with. So, stick with me to the end of the episode because I'm going to give you some challenges that will allow you to reflect and understand better which course you are on and what to do about it. Thank you so much for joining me for this new episode of Ask Me How I Know. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the notes, the messages, for the follows over on Instagram. It's super fun. If you haven't followed already over on Instagram, I am putting out some content that is different than any other social platform because Instagram is its own space. And so I'm using Instagram to just post some of the things that I'm actually doing in my daily life that are challenging my own thinking and will probably help feed your thinking, mindset, soul, however you want to take it. So anyhow, if you want to follow, you can go to the at Ask Me How I Know podcast, or you can follow me personally at Happy Julie Holly. Either way, I welcome followers. Similar content, also somewhat different, but please join me over there. And if you haven't already followed the podcast wherever you're listening or watching this, make sure you do that. These are absolutely free ways to help support getting this message out there, both the mindset message and the hey, these are great investment practices that you should consider. So it's like a super win-win-win-win. So let's dive into this because I have been recording some podcasts and talking to different people in meetup groups and such about the concept of 1 degree or 6 degrees, right? And so I won't lie, it began because I was speaking with someone about favorite airports, and I happened to find myself in the Phoenix airport often. By nature of where I live, that's just one of the hubs, the connecting spots. And listen, I can't fly direct pretty much anywhere from where I live in North Idaho. So I am going to be at some random airport. Anyhow, in at the Phoenix airport, there is specialty coffee shop and coffee and tea. So if you're a tea drinker, it's for you as well. I think that it's right beside a Panera. I can't remember which terminal. So if you're traveling, you'll just have to look it up. But it's a very, highbrow place. And they have these elements so that they are watching the temperature so meticulously, and every single every single hot beverage, we'll say, is brewed very specifically, and it is calculated perfectly for whatever it should be. And you hear about this from people who are into their different beverages that oh, you put just you heat that the water temperature. If it's just a little bit too hot, it's going to cause a burnt flavor, or it's going to do right, fill in the blank, all of you who know what happens, because I don't know all the nuances, but I do understand it, and it changes the flavor, right? So there's this concept of how these degrees, these very slight differences in degrees, will actually have these really big impacts, larger than than we often understand. So, as I'm discussing this concept of what happens when we as human beings are just 1 degree off or 6 degrees off, and we're trying to live our life. So, let's just say I found this by way of conversation and then doing a little Google research. I found that if you're in an airplane and you are 1 degree off, that you are going to go, and I'm going to look at my notes so I don't get it wrong. It says, every 1 degree a plane veers off, it misses its target destination by 1 mile. 1 mile for every 60 miles, right? And so the further you travel, the further away you are from where you want to be in life. And that really causes me to reflect on how am I living my life and what are my goals and how am I pursuing those goals? I've done a lot of reflecting over the last month as to Am I being true to what my ambitions were and what I set out for? Am I staying on that course? Now, here's the thing, and this is where we want to have some excuses. So let me backtrack just a second and say, let's pretend that you are driving, and I think someone gave me this example. If you're driving from LA to New York or flying an airplane from LA to New York, but you're 1 degree off, you'll end up down in like Washington, D.C. or something. Okay. So we don't want to end up in a completely wrong destination. And I think I'd prefer going to New York over D.C., although they both have really good food. All this to say that 1 degree off. So, what do you do? What we do is what we call a course correction. And we need to be doing these little course corrections along the way. If we catch a course correction early on, that distance traveled, if we catch that in the first mile, then we're going to save ourselves, 60 miles of being off if we're using the airplane analogy, right? And so how are you doing this in your life? Do you have a practice where each week, as you're planning your cup coming week, are you looking back at the week that you just concluded to say, hey, what worked, what didn't work, where I'm at on these projects, where I'm at in these relationships? Are you taking the time once a week to do that? Maybe you do this daily, but also, what areas are you looking at? So it's easy for those of us involved in business to simply look at our business and to put our finger on the pulse of the business and be like, guess we don't use that thumb, to say, hey, how's my business going? And whoops, we got to change this marketing practice. We need to be reaching this many more people. We need to be doing that on this, apartment complex. We can go through that process with business, and it's so simple and it's very natural. But what about the relationships in our life? Are we putting our finger on the pulse of the relationships in our life and checking to make sure that they're not 1 degree off? Imagine this. If you have your a family and you have a child, or if you don't have children, that's fine. You might have a puppy or a kitten or some other, warm critter that you are the caretaker for. And if you take the time to nurture and cultivate and to feed and to spend time and be affectionate, pet the critter, give the little baby hugs and snuggles and such, you are creating a certain course, and that is going to lead to, more than likely, a healthy relationship that's mutual, that feeds into itself. Now let's just say that you get 1 degree off, and I'm going to be honest, this is where I'm holding myself in check. And that is, oh, you know what? This week I just have so many meetings and I really just need to make this headway on these elements in my life. They're really important. It's just going to be 1 week, and then I'll be back completely present with my family and my tribe, my animals, whatever it is. Okay. Well, what happens? That's 1 week. That's 1 week. Let's just call that 1 degree off. What happens when the next week it's like, oh, you know what? It just kind of bled into the next week. I just got to keep going this way. Not long, I promise. As we continue to make those excuses and as we continue to say, oh, it's okay, just hold on, I'll be back. I'm still here, and you're present in some capacity, but really you're heading off this 1 degree. Okay, so right, like I was saying, easy with business to identify quickly the little 1 degree off that needs to be corrected. A little more challenging to be honest with ourselves, with our relationships, to say, I am 1 degree off and I need to course correct right this second, because I don't want to end up over here when my children or my favorite pets are mature and they're in a completely different space. I want to be present and I want to have that relationship. I know that this is something that is a very honest conversation with my husband and I, because we've understood from the very get go that any relationship, all people in relationships are always going to be changing. They should be, right? You're dynamic and you're shifting with what you're learning. And as we're going through this, it's very important to make sure you are regularly course correcting with your spouse, with your partner, with your friends that you want to keep around in your life, because otherwise you will go separate ways. It's a natural thing that happens, which is why so often, unfortunately, you see people who've been in long term relationships, finding themselves estranged from each other, having to either start over with a new relationship, unfortunately, or starting over rebuilding that relationship, which is a great route to go, and I highly recommend that. But anyhow, that course correction can happen, and you can simply identify it. So before you are so far apart in your relationships, take an honest evaluation. If it's in a relationship with another human being that you love, that you want to be in deep community with, then make sure that you are communicating that with that person, right? And make sure that you're saying, hey, wow, I noticed that we've gone this way, and I would love to see us come back together so that we're on the same path. Like, make sure that you communicate that. This is something where I will often, as I read, right now I'm reading a book, and it's stretching me in different ways. And I've mentioned to my husband, wow, I think this might be a good book for both of us to read. I can feel myself doing a lot of shifting and changing. And I've literally said, even with my hand motions, I don't want us to go like this. Let's, make sure. Sometimes simply saying it out loud and identifying, ooh, this could happen. This is a thing, and this isn't what either of us wants. So identifying that and taking that corrective measure. This is short and sweet. It's a very interesting topic. When you start to delve into just 1 degree off is going to make a remarkable difference in your life. Let's talk about the positives that 1 degree can make in your life. If you are staying on course, I don't know of a traveler that isn't excited to land in the destination they bought the ticket for. Like, we're excited about that. And what happens is when we choose to stay to a course and to course correct when we notice that we're getting those little 1 degrees off, and we course correct, as we do that, we are reassuring ourselves and gaining and growing confidence. And that is an internal self confidence that we are developing, where it says, oh, I can trust you. I can trust that, you are aware of things that could go sideways. I can trust that you are going to course correct. I can trust that you are going to stick to the plan that we had and make necessary adjustments along the way. I believe in you. A lot of times self-doubt comes in and sets in when we don't take the time to course correct, and then we start doubting ourselves because it's like, oh well, I tried to have this business, it didn't succeed. I tried this email marketing campaign and it didn't succeed, but well, I also didn't do these things that go along with it, which are those 1 degrees. And so naturally, why would we think it was going to be successful when we were not going through the process with integrity or fidelity, right? So, um, as we take the time to do this, we are going to grow self confidence. We're going to have that joy of celebrating arriving at the destination we intended. I have to put an asterisk there. We all know that when you arrive at the destination you intended, it is always slightly different than you planned, because along the way, along the journey, you have new insights, and those insights help you make unforeseen course corrections. So you could have some turbulence, you could have some weather as you're flying from LA to New York that might say, wow, I have to move over, or I need to fly up higher, or maybe I need to fly lower. Whatever the case may be, there are some other course corrections that we have to make often along life's journeys. And those course corrections allow us to still get to our destination. It's just getting there in a little bit different way. So if you are in this little asterisk zone where you're on a path and the destination you want to arrive at, you're certain of it, but you're having some bumps along the way, that's okay. In fact, you may even have to escape some bad weather and duck down and do some engine repair and things like that along the way. It's those who are willing to do this who are going to land at the destination of their dreams. Are you willing to do this? Are you willing to course correct? Are you willing to figure out how to overcome turbulence and other obstacles that come along the way? If you are going to have a very satisfied experience at the end, guaranteed. I'd love to hear from you. Remember, drop me a note over at askmehowiknowpodcast@gmail.com because you are important to me. Or, drop notes and messages along social media. I'm on the major platforms. I'm not really on TikTok though. That's funny. And so anyhow, I'd love for you to connect with you specifically. You are important to me, and I'd love to hear your feedback and just some things that you might need support with. By the way, if you are looking for a little extra support, I do have space for a few coaching students. I haven't been out telling the whole world this so much, and I feel terrible because I haven't done my part in the relationship with my awesome listeners to say, hey, by the way, I am coaching, and I just do basically concierge coaching. And if you're interested in learning more about that, on how to get the support that you need to live the life of your dreams, feel free, shoot me a message. Again, ask me how I know podcast@gmail.com or any of the social media platforms. All right. You guys are awesome, and you are on the path, and you are going to get there, and you are strong enough to do the course correcting that you need to do to get to where you want to go in life. I'm so excited for you. Until next time, go find your freedom. Thanks so much for joining me for another episode of Ask Me How I Know. This episode was brought to you by 3 Keys Investments. They are dedicated to helping people like you, you, my awesome listeners, develop passive income and legacy wealth through multifamily investing. Feel free to check out their website, 3keysinvestments.com, to see if there's an offering that will help your portfolio grow and meet all of your needs. If you haven't already rated, reviewed, subscribed, liked, all of those bells and whistles, I would be absolutely honored if you would do that for Ask Me How I Know. Thanks again, and go make it a great day.